Ferrari grabbed the headlines and Red Bull gave us the shocking twist during the first race of 2022. But whilst there will be plenty of time to admire the return of Ferrari, I'm going to talk about something that to me was almost as exciting as the fight up front, and that is how close the midfield was. Although it is just the first race, we still have no clue who really has the fourth quickest car or who will finish in that best of the rest place. And in the fight, behind the fight in Formula 1, this could genuinely be one of the closest and most exciting best of the rest battles we've ever seen. What's amazing about Bahrain is that in both qualifying and then in the race, if you take away the top 3 teams of Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes, we had 4 midfield teams all in the top 10 and all scoring points. And keep in mind that this is still the case even if both of the Red Bulls didn't retire. The fact that they did just made it sweeter for both Alpine and Alfa Romeo, who were able to inherit a double point score with both of their drivers. Haas were the feel-good story in Bahrain. First off, they delivered in qualifying with both of their cars getting out of Q1, and then ending with Mick qualifying in 12th and K-Mag qualifying in 7th. However, qualifying and race pace are two very different things that Haas themselves know all too well. Let's not forget that in 2019, on certain tracks, their car did have a decent turn of speed over one lap, but then in the race, they just couldn't get their tyres to work. Luckily, the car looked equally as strong in the race. Apart from a few lockups into turn 1, K-Mag had a fairly calm race. Although Mercedes was a little bit compromised due to going on the hard tyre, which they admitted was a mistake, K-Mag in clean air was consistently only a tenth or two slower than the Mercedes drivers. And before all of the chaos kicked off with Gasly, he was only about 15 seconds behind Russell after 44 laps, which is really impressive. In terms of Mick, although he did under-deliver in quali, he did then get unlucky in the race as well, getting spun out by Ocon on lap 1, and even though he didn't lose too much time, it really ruined his tyres and he was one of the first to pit, which compromised his strategy from then on. In terms of their driver lineup, bringing in Kevin Magnussen has been nothing short of a masterstroke, and there's actually an interesting teammate dynamic there that I want to talk about more in depth in another video, but what I will say for now is that with this great car, both drivers will have a point to prove, and Gunther Steiner needs to learn from his past mistakes in driver management, and he will need to make sure that the two drivers are working well together for the team and not to just make themselves look good in a decent car. Another big surprise for this weekend was Alfa Romeo. Now in qualifying, Valtteri actually outqualified Magnussen to put it P6. But it's difficult to compare the raw pace of both of the cars because let's not forget that 3 weeks ago K-Mag didn't even know that he was going to be an F1 driver, and he's been out for well over a year, unlike Valtteri, who's fully integrated. Either way, I think the pace of both of these cars is going to be very close, and let's not forget that both are also running the Ferrari power unit as well, which means it really is down to the aero philosophy of the teams. In the race, Valtteri unfortunately had a classic Valtteri start, and by that I mean it was terrible, but he did make up for it with a great fighting drive with plenty of overtaking, and although Zhou absolutely benefited from both of the Red Bulls DNFing, he was also there or thereabouts, and to score a point on your Grand Prix debut, that will do a world of good for his confidence. I actually think that Alfa are in a very similar situation to Haas in terms of their driver lineup. Both have a solid, experienced driver and a younger driver with not too much experience of actually fighting for points. I think we might see these two teams scrapping a lot this year, and I actually think that a lot of it will depend on how much those less experienced drivers will really step up. On the subject of Alfa Romeo, some of you might know that I actually also make F1 content on a channel called Live Fast. And a few weeks ago during the preseason test at Bahrain, I got an incredible opportunity to interview both Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. This was one of the best experiences in my life because I am not a journalist, I'm just a passionate F1 fan making videos on YouTube and giving my opinion, so this was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you are interested, then do please go and check out both of the interviews, which are about 10 or so minutes each, and also some of the other fun content that we filmed as well, where we asked fans at Bahrain for their 2022 predictions. all of that will be linked at the very top of the description, and also subscribe to the Live Fast channel if you feel like it. And honestly, I just wanted to say a big thank you to every single last one of you for watching and supporting my content, because without you, experiences like that would not have been possible. In terms of AlphaTauri, although they will be disappointed after Bahrain, I think they're definitely going to be firmly in that fight. All race long, Pierre Gasly was right up there and only behind K-Mag. Now, the issue that he had, which was a suspected MGU-K issue, was completely different to Red Bull's fuel pump problem, and so potentially there could have been a P6 on the cards. The team actually had both of their drivers in the top 3 in the speed trap figures, which means that when the Red Bull power unit is not on fire, it should give them some decent performance on power circuits. What is a little bit strange is that Ted Kravitz on his notebook said that Yuki Tsunoda said the team was struggling with high-speed grip, which is a little bit odd. Now, whether that is down to the way in which their car works the tires, or just the aero, only the team will know, but their car does look pretty decent. Yuki, despite not having a great weekend, did manage a P8 and got the most amount of overtakes in the race as well. And when his car wasn't on fire, Gasly was Gasly, and of course by that I mean he was brilliant. I think that there is plenty for that team to be excited about in the coming races and plenty of points for them to score as well, but that reliability issue will be massively frustrating because already that will be one of their power unit components in the bin, and it just draws a grid penalty for later on in the season a little bit closer. Alpine, just like all of the other teams, is well in that fight for P4. I would say they're going off just Bahrain. Their car does seem to be just a hair behind the other 3, but again, this was just the first race and there will be tracks that suit different cars across the season. The team reported that both of their drivers really suffered with tyre wear, and Fernando especially was the earliest to stop in both of his first 2 stops. Esteban also didn't have the cleanest of races, tagging Schumacher at the start and getting a 5-second penalty, but in the end it was Ocon with the better race and eventually going away with a double point score of P7 and P9, which I think the team will be buzzing about given that the other teams just look to have a little bit of faster cars in race trim. Alpine is a weird one when trying to judge where they are. They're probably the only team on the grid that's actually exactly where they were last year. The good news is that they have 2 quality drivers who work well together if the other one is a little bit faster to maximize points for the team. There's definitely improvements for them to make with the porpoising and their tyre wear as well, but I actually think that they have the strongest driver lineup out of the 3 teams that I have talked about so far. Now, those were the 4 strongest teams in Bahrain who will hopefully fight for that 4th place. But there's also teams lower down like Aston Martin. Now, Aston Martin's issue, apart from not having their number 1 driver at Bahrain, was that the team was one of the worst affected by the porpoising, and to counteract that, they're having to really crank up the ride height on their car to make it drivable. The problem there is that ground effect literally relies on your car being as low as possible. I am not counting out Aston Martin just yet, especially when they get Seb back and performing at 100% hopefully after having COVID, but the team have some serious issues to solve, and I don't think that we'll really know the true potential of their car until we see them fully be able to extract the most out of their ground effect. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be including Williams in this conversation, but quite frankly, a team which sadly wasn't too far ahead of them was McLaren. Now, to keep it short and sweet, from my point of view, I think that McLaren have a decent car, but there is something to do with the heat which is seriously affecting them and is stopping them from even getting close to their true potential. The team has been very tight-lipped on the specific issues, but we already knew that they had some kind of brake overheating problem, and McLaren even reported after the race, according to Tammy on Twitter, that their drivers were instructed to drive off the racing line on the straights to cool other components on the car that weren't related to the brakes. The next race in less than a week's time in Saudi Arabia isn't exactly going to be chilly, and I'm interested to see if this really is just a temperature-related issue when we get to the cooler tracks. I still believe that there is good performance in that car, and I think that they have the drivers to get the best out of it, so I will give them 4 or 5 races before I really say that they're in trouble. But there is always the possibility that McLaren have just got it completely wrong, but we'll have to wait and see. The season is long and there is still plenty of opportunities for them to fight for that P4. The truth is, I can't give you an answer for who I think has the 4th quickest car because no one knows. That's what's so amazing about 2022. Of course, one team might develop better than anyone else and jump ahead of all of the others, but it might just come down to which of the teams and which of the drivers do the best job in relatively equal cars across the season, and that would be the ultimate fight, and that's why this fight for 4th might be one of the greatest that we've ever seen. Well, there you have it, another video wrapped up. If you did enjoy this one, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That would be greatly appreciated for all of the amazing content I have coming up for 2022, and I'll see you in the next one.